So without any further ado, I'm going to ask Mayor Eichler of Signature Bank and a board member of CHYE to come up and introduce Jordan Sloan, our keynote, as well as our moderator, Joe Applebaum.
Good evening, everybody. As Shia mentioned, thank you, Shia. As Shia mentioned, I'm on the board. I'm one of the founding board members of CHYE, and I want to tell you, our early years board meetings, to see such a crowd is just a phenomenal nachas, and it's something that that is really, I know the plans that Rabbi Wordy, and he will speak later on this evening, and he'll talk about a little bit what CHYE does, but this, what you are participating in tonight, is one of the outreach programs that CHYE is great for. I'm with Signature Bank. I'm the Senior Vice President in Signature Bank. Signature, many of you might have heard of us. We are the second largest real estate lender in the New York City area. We're a $44 billion institution, and we have about $23.5 billion of that in mortgages in real estate here in New York City. We do multifamily, primarily multifamily, but we also do equipment lending, we do lines of credit, and we really have a phenomenal lending team out in Melville. Today it's headed up by Joe Fingerman and John Zirin, and I suggest any of you who are not familiar with Signature, as I heard in one of the breakout sessions earlier, go through your broker. The brokers know us, they know how to deal with us, and we are anxious to bring more of you into the bank and lend more of you. One of the co-sponsors of the evening is Eastern Union, and Abe Bergman will love to, he's one of our great producers, Eastern Union is, and just go over to Abe and he'll tell you how Signature will fund your next project. This evening, as mentioned, is a conversation with Jordan Sloan. Jordan Sloan is the chairman and CEO of Harbor Group International, and since I'm a banker and numbers is what I live by, so let me tell you a few facts about Harbor Group International. Number one, they've got 193 assets. I'm assuming, is that just in the U.S. or that's all over the world? Primarily in the U.S. 825 employees, 30,000 units, which encompasses 4.8 million square feet, and the value as of the end of 2017 was $7.3 billion. So guys, guys and ladies, perk up your ears, and you're going to have a lot to learn. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Joe Applebaum from Ajax Union, who will be the moderator, and Jordan Sloan, CEO and chairman of Harbor Group International.
One, two. 1, 2.
We're gonna give us a little test.
Testing, yeah.
Okay, awesome. 7:45. Thank you. So, Jordan, thank you so much for coming here. Awesome.
Yeah. I just want to correct, by the way, the 30,000 units is correct, and the 4.8 million square feet is those are commercial buildings. It's not the square footage of the apartments that we own. So
awesome. Thanks. Thanks for making that clear.
I don't know, I'm not sure if that makes for very, very large units or very, very small units. So I'm not sure. But
so take a few minutes and just tell us a little bit about the business. What are you guys up to?
Sure. Harbor Group, our main business is owning real estate. We own, and our biggest asset class within the real estate industry is multifamily. We own apartments all over the United States. We're in cities, in addition to the New York area, we're in New Jersey, Connecticut, but we go down the East Coast, just about every state on the East Coast, and we go to Texas, Chicago, we're in California. We've been in many even smaller cities than that. We also own office buildings. The office buildings that we own are primarily in 5 markets. They're in Chicago, they're in New York, they are in California, in the San Francisco area, Washington, D.C., and then, of course, the most famous of all those cities is Norfolk, Virginia.
And I saw also in your bio you mentioned Israel. What do you think about, like, do you guys have places in Israel?
No, so that the extent of the real estate that I own in Israel is my own house, and that's it. We've had an office in Israel since 1998. It's primarily a investor relations office. We do have some properties in the UK, and so our Israel office asset manages those properties that we have in the UK. But primarily, the investor relations, the Israeli institutional investors, most of the insurance companies, the pension funds, other investment houses, and then, of course, family offices in Israel invest with us here in the United States as well as the UK.
That's awesome. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about the early years when you just got started. I'm sure there are a lot of entrepreneurs here that are not sure what an R2 or an R6 is or whatever it is, and they're kind of learning. And I'm sure when you got started, maybe you didn't have all the knowledge that you have today. So tell us a little bit about the box spring company, or like what happened over there?
By the way, I didn't know what an R2 or R6 was then, and I don't know what an R2 or R6 is today. So after we're done, maybe at the dinner, somebody could explain to me what that means. I thought that was a Star Wars character or something.
It probably is.
But I started Harbor Group in 1985. Prior to that, I was the third generation in a manufacturing box springs and inner springs for the mattress industry. My grandfather started here in Brooklyn. He sent my father to High Point, North Carolina, to open up a factory in the 1950s, which is where I was born. And we ended up a couple of years later. It was a little bit too small of a Jewish community in High Point, and we moved to what was a much bigger Jewish community of Norfolk, Virginia. We ended up selling that business in the mid-'80s. I had to figure out what I was going to do. I actually did not take the traditional route and go get a degree and then a master's degree. But as I tell people, I went to the school of hard knocks. But when we sold that business, I had to figure out what I was going to do. And I liked real estate. I was doing real estate as a hobby, and I decided that I was going to make that my profession.
Cool. While you were doing it as a hobby, can you give an example of what you were doing? Because I know
Sure.
some people are doing real estate as a hobby. I hear it a lot.
I mean, really, really small things. Initially, and this was actually a good business, and over the years still has been a good business, but I would buy houses or duplexes, fix them up a little bit, paint, carpet, and look to flip it as quickly as I could. And I'd pick up $3,000 here, $5,000 there, wherever I could. It was actually, I enjoyed it. It really was. And it was actually good training for the rest of my career, because I realized that one of the most, not necessarily the most, but one of the most important things is really the buy.
It's kind of like in the stock market. The buy is where you make the money, not the sell, right? So
Right.
the buy is really important. Okay, cool. So you started dabbling, and you started doing it as a hobby, making a couple thousand bucks there. What made you get into it all of a sudden? Like, how did you go gung-ho and just jump into it? Did you have a mentor? Did you have somebody that showed you? Like, what was it?
Right. Could I go back to a previous
Sure.
question for 1 second? Because I did leave off one important thing. When we're talking about the things that Harbor Group does today, I just want to point out, and how many people are here?
Probably 403.
Okay, so I'm hoping that I'll get at least 150 customers from out of the group. But we also do a lot of preferred equity and mezzanine financing. So we provide other sponsors that are buying, whether it's a multifamily or whether it's office, we provide mezzanine financing as well as preferred equity.
And how does somebody sign up to that?
Yeah, we have a couple of Harbor Group reps here that have the applications ready to go.
Or I'm sure they can Google it, and there's a number there somewhere, right?
For sure,
Okay, cool.
for sure.
Awesome.
But anyway, so
So, like, what was the time that you went from dabbling to doing? When did you go hardcore into it? What was like your first deal, or how did you get into it?
when we sold our manufacturing business, that's when I went from dabbling to doing. One of the, and this is, I guess, a word of advice, one of the best things that I did was I recognized that there was a lot I had to learn. So it would take me a long time to learn, and I'm still learning, and that's one of the things I like about the real estate business, because there's never a day where I'm not learning something. However, I hired the right people. We just sold our family business. I had the wherewithal, and back then and even to this day, whenever we need expertise in an area, go out and try to find the very best person for that position. There are some people here that actually do business with my company, and I think they, with whomever they're dealing with, the level of the people that we have in the organization, it's a very, very high level. We go the extra mile to find the right people. So again, I think recognizing what you don't know is really, really key. And even if you're not hiring somebody, but you're outsourcing it, try to get the best people.
Yeah, that's huge. I know in my own business it was a pivotal moment when I realized, oh my God, I'm not the smartest person around. Like, I'm actually have to behave like the dumbest person in order to grow. So what was that? What did you actually learn in the beginning? What were the steps? What did you have to take? What did you have to go through? Because everybody looks at you now and maybe thinks, you know, this guy really, really made it. Maybe he got lucky, right? Maybe he just played the lotto and got lucky, and, you know, maybe you did that. I don't know.
No. I mean, I would say a couple things. First of all, in one sense, I did get lucky in that when I started my business, it was a good time. Why was it a good time? Because it happened to be a very bad time. And, you know, for those people that are getting in the industry today, or they got in the last couple of years, really, you've only seen the good times. It's when you learn the most is when there's bad times. And when I got started in the mid-'80s, the first thing we did was we got in the property management business. We did not actually, other than the little properties that I had and I was dabbling in, our main business was just management. And for those of you in the crowd that are old enough, you may recall the late 1980s and 1990 was much more severe downturn than we had in 2008 and 2009. Much more severe. And you know, properties you could buy then for, in 1990, 1989, 1991, you could buy for a new property for 25 cents on the dollar. You really could. But so we started by managing, and I saw around me, and there's a couple of points that I would give advice to people. I saw around me people who had really made it big and then came crashing down. So one of my lessons is what we call in our firm, really doesn't come up anymore because we've kind of graduated from this, but for those bankers in the room, they'll know immediately when I say we call it the R word. And the R stands for recourse. And so ever since I started my company, we don't sign for any loans personally. If the property could be the greatest deal, that's why we're not developers. By the way, I think the development business is a good business, and developers deserve to make every single penny that they make because it's got a lot more risk than what we do. But in our business, where we're buying income-producing properties, the property is the collateral, and that's where it ends.
That's a great piece of advice for people getting into this, to really think about it, because when you get really big, you can really fall very fast. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And again, I'm not saying people shouldn't get into the development business, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't sign for loans. But I am saying that you should be well aware when you do sign for loans that there will be a downturn at some point, and you need to be prepared for that downturn.
What do you say about SBA loans?
SBA loans?
Yeah, do you know?
I used to be on the board of a public SBA lender, but I've never really been involved in SBA loans for real estate. I think that's more for owner-operators If you have a business that owns its real estate, you get an SBA loan. It's not applicable for what we do.
Okay, cool. So you started managing properties, and then how did you get into where did you see the next level? What was the next step that you had to take?
For me, my whole goal was to build a great business. It was build a great business, and then everything would come along with that. So I realized soon that while Norfolk, Virginia is a great place, there's a big world out there, and I needed to expand my universe of where we were investing. So this was now 1993. We leapfrogged all the southern states between Virginia and Florida. We leapfrogged into Florida.
Of course, like a nice Jew, you had to go all the way down to Florida.
Exactly, exactly. That makes sense, right? That was, and then we backfilled. So that was really the first, quantum leap, so to speak, that we were now putting ourselves outside of just the Virginia area and going into other states.
So what'd you do in Florida? Like you got there, obviously you went out to eat in Boca Raton, but what'd you do besides that? Like where did you get started? How'd you get started in Florida?
So the first property we bought was a 113 unit property in Jacksonville, Florida.
Jacksonville, wow.
Jacksonville.
Okay.
That we decided to make Jacksonville kind of a base. For the most part, it worked out very nicely.
So you start off in Jackson. How'd you find your first property? Like what hacks did you have to go through to grow when you didn't have all the resources you have today?
I mean, one of the things that I love to say about the real estate business, when you compare it to, let's say, other businesses, in the real estate business, there's no shortage of inventory. There's just no shortage of inventory. So you can work through the broker network. You can look up deals online and find out who owns them and contact them. I mean, in our case, we did then what we do now, and that is we work really hard, we move fast, and we see something comes up that fits the box that we're looking for, we jump on it. I mean, we have a lot more resources today. Can I tell one funny story?
Sure, as many as you want.
One of the things you have to do when you buy real estate is you get an engineering report, you get an environmental report, and that first property, I went with our head of acquisitions at the time, and he and I went together, and basically he got on my shoulders. We both wore dust masks. I hope there's nobody from OSHA in the room right now. If they are, I think there's a statute of limitations on this. But he got on my shoulders. We both had on dust masks. He scraped pieces of the ceiling down. We put it in plastic bags, and we brought it to the laboratory ourselves to get it tested for asbestos. Things have changed a lot since then. But when you're starting out, you do what you got to do.
Was there something that you totally got into where you were totally in like hot water and you were almost totally screwed and totally finished, and somehow you magically got out? Or was it all just like rainbows and unicorns?
In business or with my wife?
Well, let's get into the wife situation.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, there's been many times, and by the way, I'll start off by telling everybody in this room another bit of advice, and that is not only don't ever tell anybody you never lost money, but tell people you lost money. So I'm telling all of you I've lost money before, and I'll lose money again. Because if you haven't, then you either are getting ready to, or you don't have enough experience under your belt. So there's been times where where things haven't gone the way we wanted to, and when that happens, one of the things that we do, and I personally do, is I say, I'm going to go back to basics. So another funny story is that we had a property in Virginia that wasn't doing very well, and I was really upset because we were way behind our budget. And by this time, Harbor Group had already been in business for, 5-6 years. We were still small, but we weren't teeny tiny. I called up the top 5 guys into my office, and I said, tomorrow, we are going to the property and we're going to paint the units ourselves. So to this day, 3 out of those 5 guys are still with the company, and they tease me about this because we got to the property, got out the paintbrushes and the paint. I got a phone call, actually did have cell phones back then. I got a phone call on my cell phone, and they never saw me the rest of the day. But, you know, nothing, I think, gets you, if there's a way to get out when you get into hot water, so to speak, it's just hard work. The last thing I do want to say is there are times that you have to make a decision that I'm going to put good money after bad money. Don't do it. Try as hard as you can, but sometimes one of the smartest things that you can do is you come to the realization that you're not going to be able to change this, cut your losses, and move on to the next thing.
What's like a recent example of that? Because you're obviously doing it now more than you were doing it then because you learned the lesson. What's a recent example where you purposely did not put good money after bad money?
Yeah, so we had a big property in Memphis, Tennessee. And this was before retail started having the problems that it has now. But the mall that was maybe a mile and a half away, the anchors closed, then the mall started doing terrible. And, you know, it's funny, we used to, as a positive thing, whenever we were looking at properties, again, this is not so much applicable, let's say, to New York City, but it was a positive thing. Where's the nearest mall? Where's the nearest mall? Who are the anchors? And if it was close, that was a great thing. We're very excited about that. Nowadays, we look, where's the closest mall? Hey, let's stay away from that. Basically, the neighborhood is going down, going down, going down. And no matter how much money we put into the property was not going to change the fact that that neighborhood, the overall neighborhood, within like a 2-mile radius of wherever that mall was just getting worse and worse and worse. We made the decision, just cutting our losses. Let's just get out and move on. The other, can I just?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not only, by the way, does it suck up your money, but sometimes even more painful is it sucks up your time. And you know, we would have the saying that we have one property taking up 95% of our time, and the other properties aren't getting enough time. That's a bad thing.
So you spoke about your mind and making sure that you're the type of person that's constantly learning and learning and learning. What about your emotions? I know that when people are investing, they sometimes get emotionally invested, and that's why they want to put good money after bad money. How do you manage your own personal emotions, and what did you have to go through to be able to play with the type of money that you're playing with now?
So first of all, again, it comes back to you have to have smart people that you work with, and because those smart people will keep you in check. So again, we have in our organization incredibly smart people. And I'm the type of guy, some of you may be like this, I'm the type of guy I come up with 10 new ideas every minute, or 10 new ideas a day, and most of them are not any good. Occasionally I come up with a good idea. You need somebody to point out to you where those ideas aren't good. So again, I think the biggest thing is, again, to have good advisors, good people you work with. There are people who will buy properties and own them forever. It's a great strategy. I have friends that have made really fortunes in that. Harbor Group, we buy, we invest in the property, fix up the property, and then sell the property, hopefully for a profit, and move on to something else. So we're not too emotional about that we fall in love with any one particular property.
I know a lot of people, when they're starting out, they have issues trusting other people, especially in the real estate world. I know that there's a trust issue because, this person's grabbing, that person's grabbing. So how were you able to trust these very smart people that they weren't going to take advantage of you? Like, how did you overcome that self-limiting belief around trust? Is it because you owned the business before and you had to trust people, or did you have to go through something else in order to find the right people and then be able to really trust them?
I mean, we have two rules at Harbor Group that say everything about the culture of the company. The first is your integrity level has to be without reproach. There's no exceptions to that. The second is, what was the second?
Something doing integrity, right?
No. The second is that there's no prima donnas in the organization.
No drama.
No drama. So if there's somebody in the organization that it's always all about them, that can be like a cancer for an organization. But I completely trust the people that I work with, which is the senior team. I completely trust. I don't always agree with them, but I trust them. You have to.
So in the beginning, what were the first couple hires? If somebody's getting out there and they're looking for somebody smart, what are the key hires or the key advocates that they need to get in their circle in order for them to really be able to take off?
I love that question. I love that question because it's important. The answer to that, in my opinion, is very important. Don't hire somebody who thinks exactly like you. By the way, that's sometimes a counterintuitive thing because people say, they want somebody like-minded. You want somebody like-minded when it comes to trust, when it comes to integrity, when it comes to work ethic. But you don't want somebody who thinks exactly like you when it comes to, or has the exact same strengths that you have. So what I look for is somebody who actually is a good counterbalance to me. Again, there's a few Harbor Group people in the room here. They'll tell you that, the president of our company is a fellow by the name of Richard Litton. He's a former lawyer. I've never met a better process person than he is. You tell him to go in a certain direction, and nobody's better at taking it from here to there. I'm kind of an idea guy. He's not as much of an idea guy. I'm not as much of a process person as he is. We're really a good team. Really, really a good team.
So this works in almost any business. You're the visionary, you're looking for an integrator, you're looking for an operator, you're looking for people that get it done and that tell you no to all your stupid ideas.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's right.
You're constantly coming up with.
And believe me, I got a lot of stupid ideas.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah. We'll talk about our ideas later.
All right.
So tell us a little bit about the books that you read, because I know that for me it was like game-changing when I started to grow my company to read books. Tell me some of the books in real estate or that helped you in your journey that other people can sit there and devour and become an expert like you.
Like The Art of the Deal, Donald Trump.
Okay.
Yeah. I did read The Art of the Deal. Actually, it was a good book. But I tell you what, the good news is that... Sorry. Oh, is that better? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Should we start over?
No, let's just start. Yeah, start over. Go ahead.
Okay. I read a lot, however, I'm a very one-dimensional reader. So it's all about business, and whether it's the Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg Magazine or books about various entrepreneurs, I love reading those types of books. And if it's fiction, sci-fi, I'm not that kind of reader. But I mean, some of the books I read, the story of the Reichman family. It was a great book. There's a story about the Empire State Building. Is also a good book.
Any specific mentors that people should follow? Obviously, besides Donald Trump, you mentioned him already. Is there anybody else that people should be following online or watching their videos?
I didn't say Donald Trump should be a mentor, but
okay.
I wouldn't go that far. But anybody that I'm following?
Yeah, or anyone that you would recommend people check out his tweets, check out their Facebook, check out their LinkedIn, their Twitter, their stuff, their videos, their courses, anything that you'd recommend people do?
What's Facebook?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
You sound like the Senate. What's Facebook?
No, I mean, I would only say this. I think a couple people came up to me in the room. They heard me say this before. I'm an absolute believer in getting a good mentor, and that is one of the key things that I would recommend somebody do. In terms of who, again, I would start with, again, integrity level is number one.
So if somebody wants to get you as a mentor, what do they need to do?
Oh, boy. I wish I had time. I really do. I wish I had time. But, I travel a lot, and
But if they're super persistent and they're really after you.
I can recommend to them some good mentors.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. This was really, really great. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, before Jordan gets off the stage, I want to say we've been working on this event, Baruch Hashem, for close to 6 months. And really, what made this event accelerate and really happen, the hardest part is getting a keynote speaker. We tried getting many different people, and Baruch Hashem, when we reached out to Jordan, through the special assist of the Berg family, Yehuda Berg and Yisrael Berg, Jordan agreed to be a part of this, and I want to give a big round of applause and a big yeshakaya.
Thank you.